Known for its coastal towns and picturesque landscapes, New England beacons with timeless charm and historic beauty. Today on Homeworthy, we uncover the best of this region through 3 remarkable homes. From a quintessential Maine home with coastal views, to a breathtaking 70-acre country estate in Vermont, and finally a historic farmhouse near Boston. You're watching Homeworthy, where we believe every home has a story. To shop items inspired by this and other Homeworthy episodes, be sure to check out the product links below for amazing furniture, accessories, and more.
Hey Homeworthy, I'm Molly. Welcome to my home in Maine. Come on in, let me show you around. Hi, I'm Molly Walpuck. I am coming to you from the beautiful coast of Maine. I retired from the federal government after 32 years of service there and moved to Maine and started an Instagram account, and then a couple years ago I started a blog. So I spend a lot of time working on my home, sharing it with people out there, and I also do volunteer work at our local food pantry. I moved up here full-time in 2018, and we had bought the property in 2016, and you will see the view here. And when I saw the view standing in our field, I fell in love, even though the property had 2 very run-down cottages on it, but it was a dream come true for me. This is our entryway. This is directly to the right when you walk into the house, and it may be small, but for me it's kind of exciting because it's the first time I've ever had an entryway in a house. And especially here in Maine with the seasons that we have, it's great to have some place to hang your jacket, take off your muddy boots, and get into the house. So I have these fun hooks here that are whale's tails. This is my happy place. I bought this as a cottage, Victorian cottage piece of furniture. I have a thing for these whimsically painted pieces that are pretty commonly found here in New England. They date to the late 1800s, early 1900s. I have some painted tin pieces and some old painted tin picnic baskets. I have a thing for anything with like a faux wicker or wood painted finish on it. A blue bench that I got from a local auction where you can sit and take your boots off. And then this antique wicker sewing basket that was my mom's. My mom and dad lived in London for years, and my mom was a huge antique collector, and you will see I have a lot of her things in my home. The stained glass window here in the front door is very special to our family. We had it in our home in Maryland where we lived before, and it welcomed us home for many years there. So we moved it up here and put it in our home here, and it just immediately made this place feel like home. On this wall here, this half wall, I have a collection of baskets from, many of them are some Nantucket baskets that I collected when I was there, and then baskets that were my mom's and my grandmother's. So this is a special collection that I have here. Now let's head into the mudroom. Welcome to the mudroom. This is another small space, but again, I've never had a mudroom in any home that I had, so I love this space. It's nice that it has its own entryway, so it can come right in with mud and muddy feet and muddy paws. I have this antique pine piece that I got at a local auction that's great. It holds all kinds of things, including my recycling. Up above, I have all my vases and baskets and stuff that I use for flower arrangements. These are some antique blue and white transferware that my mom gave me. My daughter did this at one of those paint parties. It was a paint by number, and that's my dog Maddie, who you'll be meeting later. Nice, got the washer and dryer here, cabinetry, and then this is one of my favorite things in the house. It's a dog shower, which is super important here in Maine because we have mud season, and I've got 2 dogs, and this is great. They come in through the door, they hop right up, I rinse them off. It's also great for watering plants, rinsing paintbrushes. It's kind of like my utility sink, and I'm a relatively new grandmother, so it's also going to be great for rinsing off sandy feet when they come home from the beach. I have some towel racks that I made out of old shoe forms. These pictures up above are one of the oldest things that I have owned in the house. They are pictures from an old book that were hanging in my oldest daughter's nursery when she was little. So those bring back good memories. And then I have shelves there that just contain jars and treasures that I found by the water, just for fun. This is small, but a very hard-working room, and it's truly one of my favorite rooms in the house, which sounds kind of crazy. But it's just so great to have this space where I can dump things. It's great. I got the laundry right here. Previously, we had our laundry in the basement, and the house before that, it was actually in a shed in the backyard. So having it right here, right near everything, is really nice. Right off the mudroom is our front hallway, and I will take you there now. And here we are in the entryway. One of my favorite things about this house is how when you walk through the front door, you can look straight back to the ocean. It's just the greatest welcome home every time. Some of the things that I have here, one of my favorite things is this antique pull-down school map of Maine that I found at a local antique store. I don't think it was ever even used because it's in perfect condition. And I love having it. Just immediately gives a sense of place when you walk through, and it's fun for guests to be able to look and see what's here. It's amazing. It's from probably the early 1900s, but Maine hasn't changed much. The towns are still pretty much the same. Underneath I have a small trunk painted with a sailing ship that I got at an antique store, and then a blue painted trunk that I got from an auction. My favorite color is blue, you will see. So it's perfect. And then here is an amazing piece that my parents brought back from London. They had it in their kitchen, and when they downsized, I was the lucky recipient, and it was pretty far along. Hey, buddy. During their construction process in the house, and it's a large piece of furniture, so I was lucky that I had a spot for it, and it was tucked right in here in the hallway, and it's great. Not only does it look great, but it has so much storage space in it. And then above it is some of my mom's incredible collection of antique blue and white transferware. As I said, they lived in London, and my mom used to go to all the antique markets and antique shows and stores, and she has an enormous collection. I have this, I have some more. I have 2 sisters, they both have collections of it, and my dad still has some of it. That's how amazing and vast her collection was, but they're just so special to me to have. She loved them so much, and for me to have this piece of her in the house is just a wonderful thing. One thing that I like to do when arranging things is I like a symmetrical arrangement to some extent, but then I also like to add in pieces that are a little asymmetrical. So you can see this kind of moves up to the right here. And then I also like to add in one thing that's not like the others. So I have a bird that's made out of a brown plate up there. I do not have a background in design. I have just always loved it, even from when I was a kid. I remember I painted my walls in my room bright yellow, and I had yellow and orange furniture, and I decorated my college dorm rooms. It's just always been something that I loved, and when I retired and moved here, it was something that I wanted to focus on some more, and when we built the house, I knew I had this incredible canvas to work with. So it's just been so much fun. So the floor here in the entryway, mudroom, and the hallway here is quartzite. And it's definitely something we chose because of the weather here in Maine, so that you can come in with your muddy shoes or your wet feet or whatever, and it won't get damaged. And then the rest of the house has, or the main living spaces have, pine floors. I also love the way this quartzite picks up on the stone that we've used for the fireplace. Again, since this is a hardworking space, I also chose to cover the walls in tongue and groove paneling, because it can withstand bumps and dings and everything better than the drywall. I also like how it defines this space as its own thing. The downstairs is pretty open, and it's nice. There's different ways that I've defined each space, either by flooring or wall things or ceiling treatments, which I'll be showing you more of. This bench here is another piece that I got from my parents. I think they got it in England, and I think it was an old bench in a sleigh or a carriage or something. But they kept it next to the door in their family room, so the door to the outside. So it kind of serves the same purpose here. One little detail that I think is fun is on top of the newel posts on the stairs, I found some beach rocks that I attached to them, just as, like, again, a little nod to the beautiful spot that I live in. Here we are in the living room. So the living room and the dining area are pretty much open to each other, except for the stone fireplace that stands in the middle. And this is literally and figuratively the heart of the home. The stone was actually locally quarried. This is an area where we used to have a bunch of granite quarries. And these were apparently the cast-offs, and they were used as fill on the property when the original cottage was placed here. So when they excavated for the basement and the foundation, they found all this rock, and my builder was kind enough to save it for me because it's the only thing I didn't pay for when this house was built. But it's just a beautiful fireplace. The mason did an amazing job. And then this mantle is actually salvaged from the original cottage that was here. It's the only thing that I kept. This is one of my favorite areas. When I first moved in, I was looking for some kind of significant art to put here, and I couldn't settle on anything. And I finally just decided that I would switch it up seasonally. So this is my early summer decor. I change it for Christmas and in the fall, and I actually have a lot of fun with it. It's a two-sided fireplace so that you can see through, so you can see it from the dining room too. And sitting in front of the fireplace are Maddie and Cisco in their very favorite swivel chairs. I'm a big fan of the slipcover because Maddie and Cisco are a big fan of the furniture. So I change these out seasonally too. In the winter, I have a cozy sheepskin-y kind of thing that I put on them, and they have their flowers on for summer. For the mantle display for summer, I have some netting that I put on there, some driftwood, just some kind of like collected things, some shells, a little buoy, and this was a piece that I found actually at an estate sale in Maryland. It's a piece of driftwood that has shells and rocks and sea glass on it that I've added to over time, and I just nailed it right into the fireplace. This is an antique Bavarian marriage cabinet that it's my most recent acquisition here. I wasn't looking for a piece. I walked into an antique store that was going out of business. They were having an incredible sale, and the next day I brought this home. I fell in love with it. It's just the perfect colors. I love the painted design on it, and the kicker on it was it actually has my first name and maiden last name initials on it, so I felt like it was meant to be for me. On top, these are antique pet carriers. This one I got at an estate sale in Maryland, and it even came with the little food basket that they put the pet food in with the label from where it was, like the name of the pet and where it was coming from. It's very cool. Here's the main seating area in the living room. This is a long, kind of narrow space. So ended up dividing it into kind of 3 sections. So there's the seating area by the fireplace where Maddie and Cisco like to lounge. And then this is the main seating area. We have a family of 8 adults. So I wanted a seating place for everyone. So that's how I ended up with a sofa, love seat, and then 3 chairs. Again, slip covers everywhere because I just like the fact that I can toss them in the wash. And I also change those up seasonally. In the winter, I add darker, cozier fabrics. I like to mix and match my throw pillows. I also change those up seasonally, just to have a lot of fun with different fabrics and patterns. I get most of my inspiration in this house, especially in this downstairs living area, from the outside, from the view out my windows. So for example, this fabric I thought was really fun. It has lobster fishing boats on it. I have a bit of a thing for seagulls. I have this collection of carved seagulls that I've picked up at auctions and antique shows, and I just love this grouping, kind of with their friends out the windows. And then I have some antique prints, again, seagulls, that I have on the walls. And then I have the big kahuna over here. I call this Godzilla, the seagull that ate my living room. It's a reprint of an old painting, but I just felt like the room needed something large here. So I have a giant seagull hanging on my wall. This chest of drawers is the first piece of furniture that I won at an auction. I have this thing, as I've mentioned, for antique Victorian painted cottage furniture, and these pieces date to the late 1800s, and I fell in love with this piece. It's got these amazing bucolic scenes painted on it, the faux wood grain, and I was ready to fight for this thing. And the bidding started, and if you've ever been to an auction, the auctioneer starts at a certain thing, and then he will drop the price until somebody kicks in. And he kept dropping and dropping, and nobody else was kicking in, and it got down to $35. I was the only bidder, and I walked out of there a very happy woman, and I still love this piece. It's one of my favorites. On top, I have a dough bowl and some wire containers with just a whole big old pile of seashells. No, I have not collected these on the beaches here. I got most of them at estate sales. And then above, keeping with the shell theme, I have a bunch of old prints, seashell prints. And then this was painted by an artist who found me through Instagram, and she painted this gallery wall with Maddie lying on the couch. And I just think it's so fun to have a picture of this wall hanging on this wall. Over in this corner is kind of a work table, puzzle table. This is where I work on my blog. And more of my seagull prints here. This pine table I got at an estate sale in Maryland before the house was even built. So I'm glad I found a good spot for it. I love to visit local antique stores and auctions and antique shows and pick up things for the house. I would probably say that besides the sofas and the soft furniture in the house, pretty much everything is antique or vintage. I just love the character that it brings to a home, the soul, stuff that has a story before you even bring it through the door. Many of my pieces came from my parents, so it's a wonderful reminder of my mom who picked them out. And last but not least, I like that they're already broken in, so I don't need to worry about them getting banged or dinged, or if it's worn, I just feel like that gives it more character, and I don't need to worry about ruining it. Off the living room, we have access to the deck, so let's head outside. One of the great things about this house is we have this large wraparound deck that overlooks the ocean from here. Here we have a seating area. I moved the wicker settee from Maryland. It was on our porch there for many years, and I wasn't going to bring it with me. And my daughter was like, "Just put it in the crate to go." And so I did, and I'm so glad that I did. The other furniture was locally made out of cedar. This isn't a fancy porch with big cushy furniture. This is Maine. We keep things pretty basic. The weather, we get a pounding from the weather here. So I love how this all has weathered to this gray. I made this table out of a board that I found washed up on the shoreline with a little stand. I have pieces of driftwood. And then this is the classic Maine lobster trap coffee table, which is kind of, you have to have one of these if you live on the coast of Maine. But I love how it's all just weathered and worn and just perfect. And I found these really cool shutters with the boat cutouts at a local antique store, and I just think they look perfect. Coming around over here, we have more seating for people to enjoy the ocean view, and then a dining area here with a teak table. Again, I love how it weathers to the silver in the ocean. I set this up for just a casual meal out on the deck with some fun nautical or fish themed plates from Cascada and a little red, white, and blue for the upcoming holiday. Last year I painted these buoys that I found at an antiques place, and I painted them with blue and white stripes. Looking up there, that's our wildflower meadow. I just let it go wild in the summer, and it's full of different flowers all summer long. I love it. And it's great for pollinators. Let's head inside now to the dining room. This is the other side of the stone fireplace. I differentiated this one from the other one by having a stone mantle instead of the wood, and then it's got a floor level hearth instead of the raised hearth on the other side, just to kind of mix it up. Unlike the other side, I leave this blue and white here year round and just switch things up by adding different things to the mugs that are on the mantle. This is a pattern called Barley and Hops. It's probably old pubware, which is amazing that it's still in this kind of condition. This was, again, from my mom. It was one of my favorite groupings that she had, and I just so grateful that I have it here. I broke a piece last year. Made me really sad. Above some traditional, the Willowware platters, as well as a really fun one with a bunny pattern. And then again, to tie into the location, I've got these mussel and clamshell, a wreath made out of mussel and clamshells. Hanging here in the summer, on this side, I hang this flag. It is not the Danish flag, which many people ask me. It is a nautical flag. It represents the letter X. A trunk in front of the fireplace is from my parents, and then 2 wooden pins that I got at an antique show that I just kind of think it all pulls it all together. And again, a pair of fireside chairs that you can sit in, and it's nice somebody can sit and be comfortable here and talk with the cook in the kitchen, which is right over there. In this corner, I have a pine corner hutch that came from a local antique store, and I have filled it with a collection of antique spongeware. I saw this on another Instagram account, and I fell in love with it immediately. I was lucky. I bought most of it from 2 different auctions. I was lucky to win it. So I've just filled it full of it, and then on top I just have a jumble of ropes and buoys, and this is a rope bumper for boats. I just kind of like the jumbly mess of it. I'm of the firm believer that in collecting, you should display all your items together in a grouping for the biggest impact. And I also feel that when it's organized and displayed together, it doesn't look as cluttered as it can if you have lots of different things put together or spread all over the place, because I think your eye kind of reads this as a whole instead of all the different pieces. Here in this window is where I have my plants. Never had much of a green thumb, but they somehow just seem to like this spot here. Maybe they like the view, I don't know. It's really important for me during the winter, which is very long and dark here in Maine, to have this green. So I just kind of keep bringing plants home. The dining table I had made new from reclaimed pine. Our family loves to cook. Sitting down for a meal together is a very special thing for us, so I wanted to have a big table that our family could gather around for many years, and it extends, the two ends pull out, so I'll be able to see many grandchildren to come. I set the table. When I set a table, I usually like to keep it pretty simple. I know I've got a lot of stuff all over the house, but I don't like a table that's got lots of stuff. So simple wicker placemats, some striped blue dishes. I love a block print for the napkins. I just got these great little lamps that I think are really cool, with cute little raffia shades. For the centerpiece, I don't do well with flowers. They don't last long for me. Then they end up dropping petals all over the place. But I like to have something natural in the centerpiece. So for this, I've done starfish. I do pumpkins in the fall. I've done oranges in the winter. And I, again, keep my centerpiece really simple. I just often have a stack of bowls. I have some wooden bowls that I stack. I just like it. It's tidy, it's neat, and I always like to have it on a runner. The chairs that I chose are from Serena and Lily. They're the classic French bistro chair, of course in blue and white. I had always wanted a set of these chairs, and I like the little bit of something modern that they give with all, with all the antiques that I have in here. They just look fresh and clean, and they're really comfortable. And then I have the matching bar stools here. This is so many people's favorite corner in my house. Again, it's another piece of fun Victorian painted cottage furniture. I love the design on this. I've turned it into, it's a washstand, but I've turned it into like a little drinks table. And with this rope lamp that was a gift for me, and then this plate wall that I did. When I first got, these are the plates that I got, they're Limoges plates that I found at a local antique store. And I had them all lined up symmetrically, and I just looked at it one day and I was like, it's not working for me. So I've created this kind of organic flowing thing. I've added a couple plates. I recently added these two lobster plates. There's a couple oyster ones in there, but I just love how it starts from one wall and travels up. And then for my one thing is not like the other, I added a wooden carved fish that I got from a friend. Here, I like to use some interesting containers for my plants. This is an old wood grain painted bucket. And then this piece is a big old flower bin that I found at an antique show, and it holds Maddie and Cisco's dog food. This pine hutch I moved from Maryland. It's one of the only pieces that I moved, and the architect actually designed a space for this. I love how it's in the dining room, but it's also kind of in the kitchen, so it kind of has a casual feel to it. In the summer, I have it filled with my collection of Cornish ware. Another thing that I saw online and fell in love with immediately, and I actually bought most of my collection in one fell swoop from a woman who was getting rid of it, and I did this kind of shady driving down and meeting at the New Hampshire liquor store parking lot to purchase it from her, so it was pretty funny. But again, I just feel like when you put it all together, one thing all together, it just makes it look controlled and cohesive as one whole. I bought the breadboard and the painting at the Brimfield flea market, which I've been to twice now. It's such a blast. And when I did the arrangement up here for summer, I kind of mimicked the 3 pieces in there. So I've got a striped bowl and a crock and then a pitcher. So that was kind of fun. Just a little details that I like to do. Right off the dining room is the kitchen. Let's head in there. This kitchen is very much a working kitchen. It doesn't have all the bells and whistles that I see on so many kitchens these days, but it's just perfect for me. I went with the 2-tone cabinets. I like the idea of a white kitchen, but I didn't want it all white. I love how the wood on the bottom warms things up. These are actually red birch, and it's the exact same cabinets that I had in our home in Maryland, which I loved so much. Again, working kitchen. I like to keep my pots out. This pot rack was actually fashioned from plumbing parts. My builder was very industrious, so I love it. Big farmhouse sink that I have. Of course, my backsplash tile had to be blue. Last year, I did a fun little project. I lined the backs of the glass cabinets in peel and stick wallpaper, which is just a nice detail and so easy to do. The countertops are white quartz with a little bit of graining in them. Last year, I also did a project where I painted the floor in a blue and white checkered pattern. And I just love how it brightens the space. I love how it contrasts with the wooden cabinets. And it's also nice in an open concept space to have something that separates the spaces. So the floors, the painted floor starts in the kitchen. I also did that on the ceiling. There's a beadboard, painted beadboard ceiling that also differentiates it from the pine beams that we have in the dining and the living area. This here is my beautiful Blue Star range. I fell in love with this the minute I saw it. It's a workhorse. It just feels like the kind of stove that's going to be here for years and years. It's generations are going to be using this stove. I really love it. And I situated it here on the island so that the cook can enjoy the view and also converse with people in the dining area. This is my pantry cabinet. I don't have a fancy walk-in cabinet, but I love this, and I wanted it to look like a piece of furniture instead of cabinetry. So it's different. It's got the beadboard front, and I color matched it to the stove. This wall is another one of my wall displays of collection. These are different kinds of fish molds that I just had a lot of fun collecting them and arranging them. So this side of the kitchen island, the other side has my range. This side has a seating area. Again, something I've never had in any of the houses that I had. I love it this is where I have breakfast every morning, and I do have a sneaky TV here in the kitchen, so it's nice to sit here in the morning and watch the morning news. I mentioned I don't do big flower arrangements, but I do like to go out into our wildflower field and pick wildflowers. So it is lupin season here in Maine, so I went out and picked some of those this morning, as well as a few others that I like to have displayed. That's my kind of flower arrangement, casual. Now let's go upstairs to the primary bedroom. Welcome to the primary bedroom. The cottage that stood on the property before was just one story, so I was really excited to see what the view would look like from the second floor. This view is probably the best one in the house that you get right when you walk through the doorway, and the architect designed big windows to take it all in. This is a little sitting area that we have right when you walk in. I got this old mantle at an estate sale in Maryland. Didn't know where I was going to put it when we moved up here, and it finally found its resting place here. I painted it a dark green, and then for fun I filled it with books, and then I carried onto the mantle display kind of the book theme ahead. So this is my little book nook, or my reading corner. This is a painting of my kids when they were little, so it's a very, very special one to me. A nice comfy chair to sit in and read. The wicker furniture, the table and chair, were pieces that my mom found at an estate sale, and they have the best chippy old paint on them that's worn and weathered, and I love the feeling that they have, casual and relaxed and just not too perfect. The bed is kind of the showpiece in the room. Started with this headboard that was part of a Victorian cottage piece set that I found at a local antique store that came with the headboard, a washstand, a dresser, and a table. And old beds are only full size, so I wanted to make it into a queen size bed. So I had a craftsman make it into a 4-poster bed. He did an amazing job, and for fun he added, for the finials on top, they're all shells, which speaks to the arrangement that I have hanging over the bed, which are Sailor's Valentines. It's a collection that I had. Our family used to vacation on Nantucket. I bought most of them there, and they are one of my most treasured collections. The Victorian cottage furniture was known for its fanciful painting, but this headboard is just an exquisite piece with this amazing view with the water and the boats and the trees and everything. It's just, I think it's just absolutely spectacular, and it just seems so perfect for my location, like it was made for me so many years ago. The bedding ties in again with the location. It's this fabulous that's got shells and wildflowers on it. My theme here is kind of meadow and sea, because we have the wildflower meadow on one side and the ocean on the other. For this piece here, the same craftsman who made the bed took the top from the table and then made a chest of drawer, a little nightstand out of it that has drawers on it, which I love. Over here, some more wicker pieces. I love to use wicker inside. I just love the casual, very New England, Maine feel that it has to it. My family gallery of all my kids. This artwork is a special one. It was painted by a woman named Colleen Spiker, who sadly passed away last year, but I have a couple mermaids in the house that I love. More pieces of wicker from the collection that my mom got. This dresser here is kind of like the bed. It's a mix of things. The base is from an auction, and then I added the mirror that goes with the bed to the top to kind of mix it up. And on top I have these fun old shell trinkets that are bathing beauties sitting on top of shells and rocks and stuff. I just think they're charming. One of the bedrooms we have upstairs we call the captain's bedroom, named after this fellow. It was originally called the headbanger bedroom though, because you can see it's got very steeply pitched ceilings. As soon as he heard it called that, my son, who likes hard rock music, definitely claimed it as his room because it was the headbanger room, though he's the tallest one in the family, so I don't know if he's ever banged his head here. This bedroom is very small, but I love its old, tucked under the eaves kind of feeling. It just feels like a room in an old house and not a new one. I love to paint the walls in a small room a dark color, so these are deep navy blue. The bed is another one that I had, it's another antique bed that I had made into a full size. Again, it's got a beautiful scene painted on it. I love it. Above the bed, I have done another gallery wall. I love to do a collection like this because it kind of is like it was collected over time. These are all sailing ships with the captain in the middle. The bedding carries the nautical theme. It's from Schweitzer linen with this beautiful embroidered rope. This chest of drawers was another piece that my parents got in London. It's the prettiest piece. I love the painted detail on it. It was in a bedroom, guest bedroom in their home. Some collected watercolors around the edges. And over here at the window, I have another piece from my parents. This is an old dough bin. My grandfather, I come by my collecting honestly. My grandfather was a collector, my mom was a collector, and one of the things my grandfather collected was treen. It's old pieces of wood. And he was a judge, so he also had a bunch of gavels. So this is some of his. I just stuck it in a bowl. This is everyone's favorite lamp. I found this at an antique show here. I don't know why the sailor has no head, but it's pretty funny. So he's either the party sailor or the headless sailor, but he's got a lampshade on his head. This is a little desk. During COVID, when my kids came to visit, I realized they all needed some spots to work. So here's a little teeny desk that my daughter-in-law often works at when she comes to visit. I got this at a local auction. I love this knot board, also from the same auction, just going with the nautical theme, an old Currier knives. On the floor in here, I have a really fun, just casual blue and white checked rug. I just love the casual feel of it. Now I want to show you our upstairs hall bathroom. This is our upstairs hall bath. This house was a new build. There's a tradition in Maine of houses being passed down through the generations, being a house that the family comes to for years, and treasured summer memories and collections and everything. And I kind of wanted our house here to have that kind of feel. I'm hoping that one day maybe my kids will want this house so that we will pass this down through the generations. So even though it's a new build, I wanted it to feel old, and I wanted it to feel collected over time. And for this bathroom, I just feel like it kind of embodies that feeling. Again, it's tucked under the eaves. I went with tongue and groove paneling, and instead of a tile floor, I went with a very simple painted wooden floor. It just feels so old Maine to me. I got this apothecary vanity from Pottery Barn. I just love the very basic feel. A simple mirror that's attached to the wall, like nothing fancy, but updated and modern with good plumbing and good fixtures and everything. We divided both of the bathrooms up here are divided into two separate rooms. This is particularly nice when the kids are all here because people can be brushing their teeth, washing their face, whatever. Someone can be using the shower. So there's a pocket door that pulls shut, so it kind of operates as two different spaces. Something that's super noticeable and like really makes a big impact is this incredibly cool wallpaper that I had done. It's from Nautical Chart Wallpapers, and this is actually our cove right out the windows, that they take the actual nautical charts and blow them up, and these are custom colors that I had done to match the floor. I just think it adds such an incredible sense of place to this room. Here is in the other part, we have a larger area of the nautical charts here. I have them on the wall over there. Simple wicker. This one I think is really fun, that I got at an antique store. Things in here are pretty basic, but I love the fanciful weave of all this wicker with all of that. Since this is supposed to be a good old Maine bathroom, just a plain old tub that actually my plumber picked out. Not a fancy tub. In the wall, the tile in the tub surround is a beautiful blue, which was the color that inspired the floor. And everything in here. For storage in here, I just have a simple old chest of drawers, nothing fancy, some blue and white striped buckets here. And then I have two prints that are by local Maine artist, Sarah Fitz. I chose these before the house was even built. Like, I had a vision, I knew where they were gonna hang, and I just think they are just wonderfully summery and nautical. Home for me, above all, is a haven. It's a place to feel safe, get away from the world, crazy, crazy world. It's a place for my friends and my family to come and relax and rewind. More than anything, this home is alive when they are here with me. Thanks for coming, Homeworthy. It was great to see you.
Hi, Homeworthy. Welcome to my home in Dorset, Vermont. I'm Joshua Smith. Come on in, take a look. Hi there, my name is Joshua Smith. I am an interior designer and a lifestyle and wellness expert, and I am so glad you're here with me today in Dorset, Vermont. My husband and I found this house during the pandemic. We had been doing the New York City, upstate New York, Connecticut thing for years, but our house sold during the pandemic. Somebody knocked on our door and had to have it. And they were like, what are we gonna do? Where are we gonna go? Well, just a year before, we had been through this area, Vermont, exploring, and we found the Dorset Hollow. And if you don't know what a hollow is basically two mountains with a body of water or a stream of some sort running through it. So when we ended up turning in here by accident, we were like, where are we? Is this, what just happened? Because it is so magical here, and you'll get a glimpse when we go outside. But it's kind of amazing to see. It's like the sound of music. Really is what the experience is. But we'll get to that in a minute. But first of all, I'm gonna tell you a little bit about the house. So this house was built in the early 90s. It was a custom home, and it's kind of like a French Rambler. It just kind of goes all over the place, and it really capitalizes on being integrated in nature. So, you know, a lot of the modernists have that movement. We're all about incorporating that, but so were traditionalists as well. And so you'll notice there's different gardens on each side that face different areas. We've got the woodland garden in the front. We've got the more French formal water feature garden over here. And then we've got the big terrace out here with pond, garden, all that stuff. So you'll see that in a minute. But with the house, well, it hadn't been updated in ever. So we had our work cut out for us. And when I walked in, I was like, this is gonna be hard to do because it was during the pandemic. People weren't readily available, they were booked. But luckily I'm an interior designer, and I have some great people that work with me, and they were able to pull it off and help us out. Because we were in California at the time, and so it was very hard to kind of manage a project when you're not there. But we did it. And I'm happy that you're going to get to see it today because we have fallen in love with this area and have planting roots. What's interesting about this house too is that there's all those architecture features, even though the ceilings are maybe a little bit on the lower side than what I would normally love. The views that you notice from all around, like this goes up the mountain, and we have about 70 acres that kind of on our property here at the top of this side of the mountain, the lower hollow. Upper hollow is across the way. We'll look at that outside. But here we decided to, like, this was just like shambles and not much to it, but we decided we wanted more of a formal French kind of a garden. So these are hydrangea trees. So we're a little early, but those are the limelight, so they bloom white and then they turn with the fall. They're gorgeous, but we love the water feature there because who doesn't love the sound of water? So we can close the screens, we can sit in the chair and read. It gives us a whole other zone, because I'm all about the zones, right? Like, how do we actually live in our home? And where do we go to the places that energize us or inspire us or retreat to? And we all have cozy places. And I always tell my clients that when we're designing your home and we do your home and you move in, you've got to make sure you utilize every single room, because if you don't, we're creatures of habit. And so you want to make sure that you utilize the space to kind of chill and zen out, listen to that water flow, right? So that's why we did this garden here. It's more formal here. But it's this big grand entry. At first I was like, is this a bowling alley? How am I gonna make this feel like it's several zones? And so that's what's magical about the ability to do that, is so we decided to make this actually a room, in the sense that you can grab a book from the library here. We've got, oh, this is one of my favorite pieces, y'all. So this is a Swedish 1860s secretary. Even the little key is still here. And they used to lock their little valuables in there. But my husband got this for my birthday because I've been eyeing this piece and I love this piece, but I didn't want to splurge on this piece. And so he decided to get it for me, and I was just over the moon. Love it, love it, love it. And then one of my secret recipes, I would call it, to make things not feel so stuffy is you'll notice that I put a modern chair with it, right? Something about adding the modern with the traditional, to me, as you'll notice that as we go throughout the house, makes it feel not so stuffy, not so formal. I call it livable beauty. I call it livable antiques. I don't necessarily think everything has to be perfect or pristine. I love to embrace imperfection. So you'll notice a lot of patina, a lot of wear and tear, just like me, hey. So, no, all of us. And so I think that's a big lesson there, is noticing that sometimes our outward environments can reflect our inner state of mind and vice versa. So we want to make sure that, or at least I want to make sure, and I teach my clients, that we want to make sure our places are places that support us, that enhance how we live and support our well-being. I say our houses can be our stressors, our sanctuaries, but they can't be both. So that is why there's all these things that we can do to corral clutter, organize, contain, zones, water fountain features. We have to talk about this piece, of course, right? This is a Belgian mirror from 1876, I believe, is what I was told when we bought it. And my gosh, if this mirror could talk, could you imagine what it has seen? But it's pretty amazing because this is the original patina and how the mirror has oxidized and aged over the years and has never been broken. But it's hanging on by a thread. I don't think it can make any more moves. So I told my husband, I said, if we ever sell, this thing's gonna have to stay and people are gonna have to want it because we can't have it lose any more of its parts. But what I love about this mirror is it also serves as basically another doorway. It feels like you can go into another room. The reflection of it is absolutely beautiful. So this chair is so comfortable. You'll sink into it and you'll never want to get out. But when I first saw it, and my husband pointed it out, I was like, oh, no way. Because it was that red kind of naga hide from like the 70s. And this is where vision is so important, right? Because it could have been just like, no, that is not gonna work for us. But it was like, you know what? If we were to make that a creamier, lighter color, it could be super beautiful. And so look, we did it. It was a great deal. And so we bought the leather and had it reupholstered. And it's turned out to be one of our favorite pieces. Like I said, once you sink into it, you never want to get out. And that's why we put it here, is because it's a great place to put your feet up and listen to the fountain and relax in this area. And of course, again, once I said that I love to mix new and old. And so we chose to go with just a concrete round table next to it. Of course, I have a thing for crystals. I have for years. I started collecting when I was a kid. And so you'll notice all throughout bookcases and throughout the house that I incorporate those into all of my spaces for myself, and my clients usually end up with some too. And of course, fresh flowers, always lift your spirits. I feel like flowers are the single easiest way to lift your spirits. If you just stop and get yourself a bunch or go outside and cut a few and put it at your desk or your table or by your anywhere near you, you're gonna feel better. Just like you do when you go out in nature. Mother Nature has this magic about her. And you'll see as we go outside some more of that. So from here, I would say, let's come this way. I want to show you something in here because it's tucked away, but it's kind of like its own little world. So this is the powder room. But the powder room is a place that I feel like you can always kind of bring more personality, right? Maybe go a little bolder than you normally would in your living space. For me, I like more serene, calm, soothing, but the powder room is something that could be super fun. So I found this Pierre Frey wallpaper that is this watercolor of these trees, right? So it's kind of handsome. My husband was like, we're not doing flowers on the wallpaper. But trees, we were good to go. And this, just so you know, one of my designer secrets is I love to look for old frames, and then I just take them to the glass shop and ask them to make a mirror for them. So you end up getting this really beautiful piece and turned into mirror, so it's sustainable also. We love to do that, and that's the purpose of antiques. But then I just hung this fun artwork. This table was actually the previous owner's. It was a table, and I turned it into the vanity and put the sink on that. And people always just love to visit the powder room when they're here. So here we are off the Great Hall, and as I mentioned, this is a rambler, and when I say that, I mean rambler. So when you come in the door, we call this the Great Hall, of course, but there's an entrance into the kitchen, there's an entrance into this room, and there's an entrance into the library. But this room was originally, this was a custom home, and it was a musician, and he built this so that he could have his piano in here, and his wife was insistent that the pocket doors be put in on both sides so that he could keep his music as contained as possible. So for us though, I wish I played the piano, I don't. We turned it into a media room. And so we wanted this to be more of a cozy space in between all of the brightly lit view spaces. And so we opted to go with like the grass cloth in here. I'm very warm, very comfortable. I want to go handsome. I found these amazing kind of like Greek god kind of vintage pieces, but I love to mix, like I said, the old with a modern piece, and then you have something that's more personal, more interesting. It tells a story. I think it's so important to like not just create. For me, my philosophy has always been, my job as a designer is to help you figure out who you are and how do we express that through your home. It's not about what I find beautiful, it's about what you find beautiful. And so my job is to help uncover that for you. So for me, though, this is something that just feels warm and inviting and cozy. And at the end of a long day when you just want to collapse, I could collapse right now, but I'm not going to. You just want to fall right in and sink in. So it's a fun space. So one other thing that I should point out, just because it's super fun, well, we have binoculars and a bird watching book just in case people are here visiting and they want to watch, because there are so many birds. But these chests are antique, vintage like tea chests that came over, and they still have all of the paper kind of tattered and torn, but again, so much history, so much story. But I thought that the chests were a great way to kind of work in something that's a more mid-century style sofa, but not having super tall end tables. The tea chest worked out perfectly. So from the media room, we go right into the dining room. So follow me. Okay, so now we are in the dining room, and I love this because you'll see in a minute, the view from here is spectacular. Now the view from here, what's he doing? Why has he not finished that wall? Well, it's because I have a philosophy that you buy what you love. And you buy once and you buy well. And so, for example, this farm table is one of my favorite pieces that we own. It is French trestle table, probably in the late 18th, early 19th century, but it's absolutely stunning. It feels like talc, like powder. It's so soft because people have been entertaining and dining on this for hundreds of years. Like if you think about that, it's like, what? Of course, then I had to adorn it with some beautiful jewelry here with this crystal ball, but this wall is the wall that I'm struggling to find the right piece. And so I have an empty wall here, and I think this is where we embrace imperfection, and it drives me crazy sometimes. Oh, somehow the dog got open the door. Hello, that's Crosby and Mabel, and they have opened the door from the bedroom. Hi, can I help you? So they adorn the house as well. It's really their house. I just live here. But so what I was going to say is like, one of the things I tell my clients too is like, we don't need to rush just to fill something and buy something just to fill the space. You want to make sure it has meaning. You want to make sure it has resonance with you. I took a client recently to an art gallery. She's like, how am I going to know if I love the art or if it's the right for me? I said, you'll know. So as we were looking and they pulled out pieces, she's like, oh, that's pretty. That's pretty. And they pulled out another piece and she's like, oh! I said, stop. I said, did you see what just happened? She's like, what? I said, you said, and she's like, oh yeah, look, I've got chill bumps. And I was like, yes, you do. I said, that's called a full body yes. And that's how you know that's the piece for you. So I'm waiting for a full body yes on the piece for this room because it can't be too big. It could be a big piece of art. It could be a piece of furniture. And I'll know it when I see it. So no rush. This is like a laboratory for us designers, our homes, where we're trying new things. And I have a store in town, a home store, and source antiques from France and Belgium and all around. And so sometimes I like to change things around and live with things for a while and then swap them out with other things. And so one of the things that I love that I've done with this French table is I've chosen to go with these mid-century chairs, which I could come around and do over here. But what they've done by mixing this again with this mid-century piece is that it feels less stuffy. It doesn't take up visual height. There's not a lot of upholstery, but they're super comfortable. And so people always kind of comment and love the combination of this French trestle table with these mid-century chairs because it's unexpected. And again, it keeps it kind of like, I don't know, a little hip and cool, a little less stuffy, because I definitely believe that everything should be livable and casual. And nobody wants to come into a house where they feel like, oh my gosh, I can't touch anything, or like, oh, if I set my drink down. We don't have that here. We have dogs, of course. So everything and anything can handle wear and tear. So we love it. And again, this rug too was one that we found, kind of this Turkish rug, but it was really nice because I was trying to find a size that didn't fill the whole room, because this is kind of also a pass-through. Like I said, it's a rambler, so it goes in a circle. And this rug was just the perfect size to anchor the chairs and the dining table, because otherwise it would just have dissolved into the wood floors. So rugs are a great way to anchor the zone and have your furniture, wood furniture, not dissolve right into the floor. If I had to describe my style, I would say it probably depends on a couple of factors. One is the architecture, and two might be the location. So for this house, which is more of a country house, I tend to lean on the side of collector, right? It's like, this is the place where you get to kind of go more maximalist in the country. When I've done mid-century modern and I worked a lot in Palm Springs, the vibe there is so much different. So it wouldn't be maximalist for me there, when if I spend more clean, ethereal, open, light. But for here, because it's also, we have all the seasons, there's something too that's very comforting in the winter about a space like this, where you can sit by the fire, you're surrounded by books, you'll see the collection of crystals all scattered throughout. And it's just pretty magical that any time of year, what I love about this house is you get light and bright, and it doesn't feel overly like heavy, yet at the same time, it feels comfortable, and each piece tells a story. I've got, I know when I got that piece and that piece and that crystal and that little cow painting that I love so much on the fireplace. Always cow paintings catch my eye. And this little one is so interesting because it's an oil on board, right? And like I said, I love the formality of framed, but I also love the simplicity of unframed. You'll notice that's the theme throughout too. But this little cow painting I loved so much because I thought it was so sweet. And again, it's kind of like, it's got an ethereal component to it too. But we were walking around and I was like, I should have got that painting. I should have got that painting. It's gonna be one of those regrets where you wish you had done it, but you didn't. Well, a little bit later, next thing you know, my husband's like, here's your painting. I don't know how or where he remembered to go find that thing, but he did. And that's why it gets a special little spot up here, because it's so thoughtful and meaningful to me. So, but yeah, so now we are actually have wound up in the library area, which again, Rambler makes a circle. And this is one of my favorite rooms, I would say, in the wintertime. Because I said in Vermont, which there are definite seasons, you get your fall foliage, which is beautiful. And then you get your kind of like your winter, like your white Christmas, all that. And this fireplace, fun fact about this fireplace is I used the leftover of the island countertop to make this stone hearth so that there was no waste. And it kind of just covered up the brick and made it very clean and fresh. So there's simple ways like that where I'm always looking to make those subtle changes, those subtle details that just really up level and elevate a home, but I didn't have to buy any extra stone. So I love this room, it's so cozy. In fact, this was the previous owner's settee, and I thought they were getting rid of everything. They were in their late 80s actually, and had not been here in years. And so I asked for a few pieces, and they were so touched that I wanted them, but it never recovered. But it's so cozy because it's nice to have the height. You don't always get that. But just to tell you a little bit more about me and how I ended up in this profession, it actually was not one of those that I was immediately like, oh my gosh, I'm going to be an interior designer when I grow up. I've figured out who I am by figuring out who I'm not. So I've kind of meandered to kind of like this house, as a matter of fact, to try different things. But I ended up having my first career was real estate in Houston, Texas. And I sold real estate for about 8 years. But during that process is when I really started to get the sense of how people reacted to spaces and how I reacted to spaces and how people lived. And sometimes it was frightening, and sometimes it was like, oh my God, this is unbelievable. But through that process is when I think I started to train my eye and start to really appreciate and notice subtle details in styling. And then I found myself helping clients pick paint colors. And then after they had closed, it's like, well, what should I do with the bathroom? But it wasn't really until I did my first house myself. It was a gut renovation, knew nothing about it. And I fell in love with the process. And I'd always heard people talk about like flow states and, doing something you love and you lose track of time. Well, I immersed myself in magazines and design books and started to really create this home for myself. And it ended up being a reflection of who I am. It was a reflection of what I loved. I was surrounded in, what I found is that there was this power to home, and I would walk in the door and I would be like, oh, gosh, it feels good to be home. And that was the moment that I knew how powerful it really is to have a home, and so fortunate to have that, but to get to create one for yourself is even more special. And so it's an opportunity to really express yourself in a way that maybe you haven't before. It's like, who would you have been before the world tells you who you should not be, right? So I did a lot of soul searching and and I take my clients to 40 questions to get to the heart and the essence of who they are, so we can really capture that in what we're doing. And that's the part that I love the most, I think, is that I don't have just one particular style, because it's not all about me. I mean, sometimes it is, but no, I'm kidding. With my clients, it's not all about me. It is about you and about me helping you express your vision. And I have the experience. I've had my business now for 13 years. I started with Stephen Gambrell in New York City. How lucky am I? That's where I got my first internship, and at the end of the summer, this is a lesson to all you out there that are thinking about design. I was an intern. So at 32, I basically decided, this is what I have to do with my life. I'm supposed to help people create spaces that are a reflection of who they are and how they aspire to live. And so I sold everything I owned, moved to New York City, went back to school, studied interior design. Got my first internship with Stephen Gambrell, and it was just like pure magic. It's almost like I felt like when you're doing what you're supposed to be doing, the universe will show up and support you in so many miraculous ways, because so many doors just opened that it's hard to even explain how that all came to be. But I knew and felt that I was on the right path. And so people are like, weren't you scared to just sell everything and do that at 32? I'm like, no, actually that's what was so amazing, is I just knew, well, probably through my meditation practice and learning to become still and listening to my inner guide and my higher self versus inner critic, I was able to distinguish no, this is what makes your heart sing. This is what you're supposed to do. This is where you're going to feel fulfilled. And so I just trusted in that. And it's turned out to be pretty good, I have to say. It is so important and impactful in how our homes are the foundation for our well-being. They either set us up for success, or they can be detractors and be, like I said, stressors that are unnecessary, because the only place that we have actually control over anything in the world is in our own homes. And so we need these places to retreat to. I was using the word sanctuary years before the pandemic. People are like, I don't know if I'd say sanctuary about a home now, because that might alienate people and not get you business. I'm like, but you know what? A sanctuary is a place of refuge, and a place where you are restored. And I said, that's what homes are and can be if they're designed consciously and with that intention. And so since the pandemic, it was almost like everybody said, oh my God, you're so true. There was a book that came out last year, and as a matter of fact, it was called Seeking a Sanctuary. And they used one of my quotes in the foreword of the book about my definition of home and sanctuary. And so it's really kind of been very moving to me that I followed this dream, and now this passion that I had and how important home is, I'm getting to be one of those people when I used to flip through the magazines and be like, I wonder what it would be like to inspire people to live more beautifully every day. Gosh, that must be so cool. Like, because I would try things that I would see and make flower arrangements or try to style differently, or like, oh, I never knew about groups of threes, it's so important, you know, and I would learn those things in those magazines. And now it's like I get to be and do just that. I get to teach people how to live more beautifully every day because, you know, we have to make the mundane more meaningful because every day, most days are ordinary, right? But they don't have to be. We can dial it up just even 10%. So I could go down a whole rabbit hole about all this stuff because I love design so much, but enough about me. I want to introduce you to my greatest muse, and one of the reasons why we had to have this particular space is because when you walk out through this rambling space, you are then, I would have to say the word mesmerized by Mother Nature. And she is definitely my greatest muse. I find all of my color palettes, my inspiration always starts with nature. I tell people, if you don't know what your color palette is, take a walk. Look at rocks, look at the barks of trees. Sometimes the lichen and the moss can be the ochres and the yellows and the greens, and the browns, the earth tones are all right there. Okay, so here we are. Mother Nature, the greatest muse. I mean, just look around. We all know that when we go to beaches or mountains or places of nature, we all are like, or even a sunset, right? Or even sometimes a rainy day. But here is the reason why we had to have this property. Because of the views, the location, the land. The sun rises over here in the east every morning. I sit and have my coffee, I do my meditation. The dogs are taking their little naps after they eat. It's just pure heaven to me. And I feel like it's almost like a magical land in a way. I think Vermont is like that in general. It's so enchanting, and it's so interesting to meet people here and how they've all randomly sort of ended up in this area. Because I do believe it's like, we talk about different vortexes like Sedona. I think there's something special about this place too, for sure. But we actually added this terrace. It kind of stepped out into just like nothingness, but in order to really utilize this space, we added on this sort of like semicircle terrace, and we wanted to be able to step down and have these ledges. And I love to kind of work with the same color flower palette. So usually there's more lavender and Russian sage and salvia, different shades of purples, and it keeps it kind of very serene and fresh. And of course I love a white house, especially in the country. But the stone walls, the masons that did this, I have to tell you, y'all, it took them several months. They literally hand chipped every piece that they put together. I mean, true artisans. And that's another thing I love about Vermont, is there is such craftsmanship and such artistry about everything that people do, and that the people that we got to work with on this home. But we love this space so much because it just feels like heaven. Okay, so we are in summer, which of course is like my favorite time of year. I'm a Gemini, Cancer Moon, Cancer Rising, so it's my season. But I also just love the green and the color. And so what you'll find here is that we've really chosen to kind of go very natural, very kind of like more English gardens, where it's just like everything can just grow, low maintenance, don't have to worry about it. We love the staggering of the pots and the heights, and we fill those with boxwoods and lavender and Spanish lavender. It's been very unseasonably hot here in Vermont, but usually it's not that. And there's always a nice gentle breeze because we are on the hilltop here. So this is what I was talking about, where one mountain looks to another mountain. And then between that is the Battenkill River. The most amazing moment that I've had probably in my entire life that was totally free was, we came out here, it was my friend's 40th birthday. It was this time of year. Her birthday was actually 2 days ago, and this was 2 years ago. We came out after dinner. It was a new moon, so the sky was completely black, but it's firefly season. So every night right now, down in the meadow where all the wildflowers are and the willow trees, is filled with fireflies, and it's magical. But that particular night, because it was so dark, and the skies were clear, you couldn't tell where the fireflies stopped and the stars began. It was really one of the most breathtaking experiences. We all kind of like walked over here And we just kind of like stood on these rocks and just said nothing for about 10 minutes as we took it all in. And from up here, you actually get to see how this goes down into the meadow. And so we have about 20 acres up here that's kind of open, and some land over there. We've got the pond over here. And then we have some more acreage, probably 40 more acres that go up the mountain there that we have trails through. They connect with our neighbor's trails. He has 100 acres, so it's really fun to kind of get to be in and amongst nature. And who doesn't love the sound of pea gravel, right? It's just such a comforting thing. So I'm all about engaging the senses, because I believe interior is not just something that we see, it's something that we experience. And it should engage the senses and nourish the soul. And so I always am making sure when I'm creating spaces that I think about how all the senses are being engaged in a multisensory experience of a home. So what I had always dreamed of when I was looking at these magazines, and my design magazines, was like I would see these New England gardens where you could cut your own flowers. And being in Texas, we don't have peonies, we don't have lilacs, we don't have dahlias, we don't have any of that necessarily. And so I had always kind of dreamed of having a garden. So for my wedding, instead of getting presents or whatever, if you wanted to do that, I just said, why don't you, if you want to, contribute to a garden fund? Because I would love that everyone that was a part of our wedding contributed to the building of our garden. So it's really special to me because I have one now. Come see. It took us a year to get built last year, but so it's still a baby garden, but I did grow my first dahlias last year and my first peonies, and we are at an in-between season. So well, here it is. So this is a crabapple tree. And so I got my potting shed here that I designed, and my raised beds, and I got roses on one side. We've got the peonies over here. They just bloomed and they were so beautiful. I'm sorry you get to see them. There are some inside, you'll see, that are left, but most of them are gone. And now we're that in-between season before the ranunculus comes, and then of course dahlia season, which is everybody's favorite, and it lasts so long, where peonies are short-lived. But yeah, so this is it. And I still am in the process of decorating the inside of my potting shed, which is in the works, but this definitely is a dream come true. And so we're growing flowers, of course. We've got roses, we've got kale, we've got tomatoes, we've got butter lettuce that we're trying this year. So this year was kind of a big experiment to see what does well up here, but I absolutely love it. I come out here every morning and start my day with a little bit of nature. And life can be so fast and hectic. It's so important that we anchor ourselves in, slow down, and I'm definitely one that believes in putting your feet on the earth and grounding yourself and just drawing up. And sometimes it's like we forget to take that pause because we're just going, and then our nervous systems are fried. See, into the road hole. But anyway, as you can see, this really is a little bit of heaven. And like I said, I love that the roses are doing well, the dahlias are doing well. These will be dahlias, and they'll be coming up in August is more of when they start to thrive. There's one little peony that didn't quite open, but the rest of them have all been cut and distributed and gifted, and of course I've enjoyed some too. But yeah, this is really kind of the culmination of, I would say, my 15-year journey of when I was looking at magazines and kind of having this dream of being a designer living in New England. It's a dream come true. It's pretty wild. It's very humbling, for sure. It's nice and cool in here, so come on back inside. Okay, so I don't know if y'all got a chance to meet officially. This is Mabel. This is Miss Mabel, honey. And this is Crosby. Okay, so now though, let me show you the heart and the hub of the home. It's my favorite part, but it's the great room in the kitchen, which is one big open concept. And when we bought this home, this is where we ended up having to do most of the work to get it to be something that felt perfect for us. This actually was a little doorway that had a swinging door that went to the dining room. So I was like, how much space can we open? And so we kind of just tested, and we realized we could get this much more space. And it totally, this one thing transformed this whole house. I kid you not. I was just like, what? So it just keeps that flow kind of going. But this room especially is kind of so special because when we love to entertain and we love to have guests stay with us to escape from everyday life, right? But when we do, it's like we've got enough space here that feels cozy and comfortable. And like I said, nothing is kind of ostentatious or over the top. I mean, you'll notice there's like a crack in the antique, and I love that, right? Because like I said, I'm all about embracing imperfection. It's taken me a long time as a perfectionist to be okay with not being okay sometimes, because that's just how life is. And having the capacity to hold it all is really one of the biggest lessons that I think we're here to learn. So in this room, of course, blue being my favorite color, is one of the colors that I feel like is the most soothing to my soul. It's the one that kind of lifts my spirits, and I think everyone has kind of their signature color. And the interesting thing I will tell you about in all my, fun fact, another one, is in all my years when I ask people what colors they don't like, I've never heard blue. Blue may not be your favorite color, but nobody has ever said, I hate blue. Not heard it once. But that was just a little side note, fun fact. But so I chose to go with blues in here, and one reason is because we have these amazing views outside, and so we often see the blue skies. And so I wanted to not compete with that, but yet bring that in and have that be a natural transition. And so even the artwork here, you'll notice, I kind of wanted it to feel and create some symmetry, and I wanted it to feel almost like blue skies, or how the skies changed, where there's fog in the morning, or there's mist, or it all comes through here. And so every day is just like a whole new canvas. My husband actually painted both of these for me because I couldn't find what I wanted, and he's like, I think I'll go to Whirl. And so he did, and I think they're absolutely amazing, and it's got all these amazing colors and textures and depth, and almost anchors the space now. Another fun thing, y'all, when you're searching for lamps, this lamp I've had with me since I started. It's probably one of my first purchases when I moved up to this area. Actually, I was living in New York. It's in my apartment. But this are those mid-century lamps that you always walk by and you're like, oh, that base is like that scratchy brass or that big chunky wood, and it's always looks just tarnished, and you just want to pass by it. Well, I saw this pottery and I said, this is very cool, and it's got my colors. I love the texture. And that's when I learned from Steven, it's like, all you have to do is change the base, have it rewired. So these lamps have just a bronze base now, and I had it rewired, and I think I paid, fun fact, I think I paid $30 for the lamps, and then I spent another $150 on the rewiring of the base, and they just been to me, a showstopper in every home we've had. This table too, oh my gosh, this is from the 1870s, Swedish. Original paint has worn, but you just can't beat that, y'all. I mean, to me, but this table is an example of why it's so important, I think, to incorporate antiques into your home. Number one, it's sustainable. Otherwise, they end up in landfills, which we don't need that. But also, this is like sculpture. This is art. This craftsmanship. So I think when I kind of try to educate my clients to look at it in a different way, it's like, these are very modern sofas, for sure. The angles, the lines, very modern. The coffee table, travertine, brass. We've got something from the 1960s, Harvey Prober, terrazzo here, a modern chaise, but then we've got this antique chair that I got at a garage sale that I then just reupholstered in the Sun fabric. I think this chair cost me maybe $300. So I think it just kind of goes to show that you can create more personality. It's like, I tell clients, we don't want a catalog look. We don't want it to look like it's a staged home or hospitality. We want it to really feel like it's got some character and expressions of things you love. And so I love terrazzo. So these tables are made by Harvey Prober in the 1960s. And so they work perfectly. And who would have thought in a country home? But they do. And of course, another fireplace. So this is like the all-season room. We did have to add all of the millwork because one of the things that I find in some of the homes that I've lived in is that they feel more spec home-ish, like there were builders built them, but there was no millwork, there's no trim. And that's one simple way to really give some heft and some heart and some strength to a home is by adding millwork. And so we added the beams to the ceiling. It was just sheetrock. We added the wainscot here, and that really just changed to transform this whole space, for sure. And then from here, if you just go this direction, again, open, open, open. This is my favorite probably space of all. And even with the outdoors, y'all, we have get-togethers, everyone hangs out right in here. And I'll tell you some fun facts. So these are the original cabinets, which were done by a very well-known mill worker. They were pine, and so they were kind of yellow, they had knots, and these pieces over here, well actually, yeah, these pieces here had like little clovers and things cut out of them in decorative ornament. This was like a plate rack. And I said, I don't want to have to rip out all these cabinetry. I mean, it's beautiful the way that it's done. So I ended up turning this, there was like another couple of shelves here, but I wanted a clean waterfall edge. So by doing that, we created more space, but we also got rid of some of that ornamentation that made it feel dated and old, and now it feels more modern and contemporary. And then by getting rid of this plate rack, I have this thing for flower paintings, like old vintage paintings. And it wasn't recently until I realized, I'm like, what is it that I love about these? And I realized that every one that I have, they're all individual flowers. So it's like just roses, just sunflowers. I have just what we can spin around. We have chrysanthemums over here. This was one of the first purchases my husband and I bought together in one of our first houses that I love probably the most of the ones that we have. I think the light and the colors are beautiful. But that was kind of interesting for me to see that after all these years, I never realized it wasn't floral arrangements that I was collecting. It was actual individual flowers just tossed in a vase. Super simple. Another thing about that though, too, I love, people can get so hung up on the frames, and it's like, sometimes the best treasures are in broken frames or chipped, and all you have to do is just hang the canvas. I love seeing the nails. Let's look at it. Let me show you. Because people always comment on this, and so if you haven't known this, now you will. Look at this. So this is just simply unframed. I took the frames off and hung the canvas on the wall, but the way they made the canvases back then is they just literally nailed the canvas wrapped around the frame, and you get to see the nails, which adds just another extra layer of detail and texture. So don't be afraid to have unframed and framed. In fact, experiment. It's a laboratory. Try different things and see if you like it. So yeah, so more about the kitchen. So this was a beast. I mean, it's huge, as you can see. And the stone guy, so it originally had the one sink, and then it had 5 other materials. There was part wood that was raised. There was some countertop that was tile, bathroom tile. And then there was another part that dropped down that was like butcher block. Well, I was not gonna have a multi-leveled space. And he's like, we're gonna have to have a seam. I'm like, I can't have a seam, not on the island like this. He's like, it's gonna be too big. Like, how are we even gonna get it in the house? I'm like, I don't know, how are we gonna do it? And he said, if you can find a countertop large enough to fit this whole space, I'll figure out a way to get it done. And so I found the largest piece of Taj Mahal quartzite that I could find. And the reason I love quartzite is because it's not like marble where you have to worry about staining, spilling. Quartzite is the most resilient, the hardest, the most durable. You can spill on it, you can get red wine on it, it cleans right up. So it's kind of like my version of when you think of like a white farmhouse kitchen. But I chose not to do that. I chose actually to take it a shade down from the white that I normally would do, and went with like a Benjamin Moore Revere pewter, actually, for the cabinetry in satin. And it turned out really nicely because I think it just softened it up a little bit. And it transitions so well with the seasons. And of course, when he got this piece of stone, he had to build a hydraulic lift that he brought in. 7 guys came in because they needed the hydraulic lift to lift it up so they could then lay it flat. So we did it. And then surprisingly, I was like, how are we gonna support this thing over here? Because I wanted to have at least a breakfast spot for 2. So this was new to me, but there's a huge metal bracket that they built and had this guy make that comes out to support the overhang. And then we used a post that was similar to architecture here to anchor that, but the support is actually coming from that metal brace. So what I love about design is that sometimes when you get to those places where it's like a real challenge, like, how am I gonna do this? It's like, if you work together with your contractors and you're kind, then it's amazing how they'll jump through hoops too, to get really creative and resourceful, to figure out ways to help you really achieve what it is you're going for. And so I love collaboration. I definitely believe that it's like, I'm the designer, but we are a team. And I think, all the ideas coming together is how you get and achieve something masterful. So this is probably my favorite thing. And I didn't know till I did this house about all the fun things they're doing in terms of finishes. So this is actually what they call a leather finish. Most people are familiar with honed or polished, right? Leather is kind of an in-between where it has just a little bit of texture to it and feels super soft. And so both the exterior, which I chose to go with just an absolute granite, because there's so much of it. I think this length of that one is like 26 feet. Side note, the homeowner who custom built that had the musician husband, she was a chef. And so that is why the kitchen is probably the size that it is. But this was just like a big open, kind of like commercial fridge. Again, the clover motif echoed everywhere. So I had a mill worker come in and just replace those pieces instead of tossing out all the cabinetry altogether and making it work for us. So now that we've seen about the kitchen, I want to tell you a little bit more about some of my favorite things. So come with me. So this was another piece that like had all the clovers and the things, but I'm like, but I love this piece because it's going to help me showcase all the things that I love in a nice, tidy way, because tchotchkes everywhere and just sort of, it's like makes me crazy. But this helps me to display the things that I love and that bring me a lot of joy. And so I do love flowers and I do love floral plates, and I love to mix them with just white plates, and that's my husband will let me get a pass there. But nothing too overly floral. But some of my favorite things, like look at the color of these. Gorgeous, 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 gorgeous. And so I will use these as like a salad plate with just a white dinner plate, and you just up-leveled your whole dining experience. One of the pieces, like I said, like I love this cabinet in particular is because it holds so much meaning and so much history. This picture here, for example, was a picture that David's mom, who is no longer with us, but when we got engaged, we were she came to visit in Connecticut, and we were out antique shopping because we all love to do that. And she saw this and she said, "Oh my gosh, stop!" She said, "Look at this." And I said, "What?" She said, "Isn't that precious?" And I said, "It is precious." She said, "Well, I want y'all to have this as a gift of my excitement for your engagement." And so this means a lot to me. And so that's here. And then these plates actually here are also, they were David's mom's. And so his whole family wanted me to have them when she passed away. And that just means, so much to like, so when people just like love you and appreciate you and know who you are and what you love. And it was kind of unanimous, like Josh gets these, which is so special to have and be a part of family, This is actually her china too, that I incorporated into all of this. And one thing I'll tell you about styling and mixing, and I rearrange things all the time, but it's kind of thinking about layering groups and textures, because this could be a hot mess, really, if I just shove stuff in here, right? But there is a method to the madness, and a lot of that is like layering in texture with wood, with standing up a plate, the groupings of 3, but like have them on a plate themselves, which kind of corrals them and contains them. I love to bring in books as layers, because every time people come into my retail space in town, they're like, I can get the sofa and I can get the table and chairs, but it's the layers. Like, how do I do the layers? And so it is the layers that bring a home to life. And that's where I really love to kind of teach about that and do workshops about that. But it is also varying the colors, textures. Again, like I said, cutting board. This is like an architectural fragment, but I love that color. So I think I bought like 5 of these. And they just kind of add a nice patina to this area. But even though there's lots of things in here, there's still negative space too. And I think that's also really important to remember, is negative space when you're designing. And if you don't know what negative space is, it's kind of the space that has nothing in it. So you'll hear edit a lot. Like sometimes you need to edit. But when you're designing, you want to think about where is the space that gives everything room to breathe, right? Even in a floral arrangement, for example. So these are flowers that, since we're in between seasons, some of them are outside and some of them are from a dear friend. There's a farmer here, Fleur Farm, And she has the best dahlias, tubers, ranunculus. She's been teaching me a lot. But these flowers came from her garden, this stilbe. But you'll notice in the arrangement, like there's negative space. Like I didn't just cram them all in there. There's space kind of them to breathe. But I layered in some texture and dimension and color. And I always love to keep kind of green on the center of the countertop because I just feel like bring in the green, right? It's just a great reminder of Mother Nature, and it's a great way to, well, I mean, this is actually rosemary, so sometimes I just snap, throw it in the aga, which is another actually interesting piece of this home. This was here, which I didn't know what an aga was. So this is an educational moment. So an aga stove, it has its own chimney, believe it or not. I thought we had 3 fireplaces. Nope, it's the stove. So these are very popular in Europe, and they're always on. And at first I was like, well, I'm not okay with that because that means that's burning a lot of propane. But come to find out, it only burns the amount of a pilot light of a gas stove, which was surprising to me, but this is always on. They're always set at a certain temperature. The skillet is like so hot. It kind of raises the temperature in here 5 degrees in a way. But like this is your highest setting, that would be your high, medium, low, then it kind of gets to warming drawer, and then this is kind of a warming plate. And so it's actually a little warm to the touch. We were gonna get rid of it, but it was gonna cost more to get rid of it than it would have cost, I don't know, to buy a used car. Because this thing weighs a ton, and like I said, the chimney. So we've had to learn to cook with an aga, and it's actually been kind of fun because why people love them is it's kind of like a wood burning pizza oven in a way, because you can't dry out food. Like I'm actually now can make good chicken, turkey, pork tenderloin. In fact, my husband one time left pork tenderloin in the oven for like an hour, and we thought it was going to just be a shriveled up, dried, not edible. It was moist, delicious, wonderful. So we've come to love this aga. People that love to cook come in and they just are like, oh, can I cook on that thing? I'm like, sure, if you want to come cook a meal, be my guest. We would love to have you cook for us anytime. This area, really quickly, was another big case, kind of like what we have over here. And I wanted to open it up, and I wanted it to feel a little more airy and not so heavy. But I loved the fact that it had a bar sink here. So I kind of took that piece out and turned this into floating shelves. We'll just style it up. And then, again, it's just great for kind of like serving cocktails in our bar area. We've got our ice maker and all that. Yeah, again, here's an old painting of flowers, and I've got a landscape, but then I've got a modern mixed media collage with this modern artist who makes these gorgeous vessels mixed with an old French watering jug. Isn't it wild? Works of art, I love them. Okay, so why don't we now go check out a bedroom? So this is probably really another one of my favorite bedrooms in the house. It's actually the guest suite, but it is upstairs, and so you get the amazing architecture of these dormers on both sides. This goes out to the mountains. The other one goes out to the other mountain that you've seen the view of. But when thinking about guest suites, I think it's always important to think about, like, how do your guests feel most comfortable? What do they need in order to feel like they're kind of on vacation? And so I like to make sure there's always a desk in a room, because nowadays sometimes you got to take a Zoom call. So having a desk, and this desk is one of the first pieces I ever purchased. I was working at Stevens. I did my first design project, and I said to myself, you know what, you deserve to get one piece with this first design commission. And so I got this marquetry desk from the 1960s, this chevron pattern. And so it's also got special meaning to me as well. But create a little moment here. People can also use it as a vanity. So great for getting ready when you're sharing space with others. And then this was actually a fun little place to kind of solve, because there's this niche here. So I only could do a queen bed, and I normally like to do king, but this is a queen bed, and I got these amazing Danish nightstands that have this cool dovetail joinery, the way that they were made. There's no nails in any of this. It's all pieced together by the way the wood was cut. Isn't that wild? And of course, who doesn't love fluffy, comfy bedding? So in here, I kind of had this thing where somebody told me recently, they walked into my shop in town and they're like, you kind of sometimes have this like coastal country vibe. And I'm like, coastal country? Huh. I've never really heard that phrase, but I kind of like it because oftentimes in bathrooms of homes that I do in the country, you will find ship paintings. I love, love, love seascapes. It's hard because it's like when you think about, oh, I want a beach house, or I want a country house, or I want a what. I get to have a little bit of both. But no, this one is one that this is one of my favorite pillows too. I love Ticking Stripe. It's just classic, it's timeless, it goes with everything, and it just says everything to me about summer, freshness and fun. But this is actually a vintage textile, so it's got some little holes and things in it. But this lady makes, that Brimfield that I can see every year when I go, she makes the most amazing pillows from old textiles that she finds. And so these were kind of the starting point for that. But then my mom stays in here a lot, and David's mom stayed in here a lot. So David let me have one floral. I got one floral pillow, which I think adds just another layer of fun to this room. And then of course you want a reading space so they can lounge, put your feet up, read. And then you've got the amazing views of the mountains here. And you also get a little sneak peek about what's happening down there as well. So this, again, is one of my favorite little spots, kind of like a little hideaway. A home to me is not just a shelter, but a place that we dwell and we connect to ourselves, to our loved ones, to the divine. It's a place where we make memories. It's a place where we can nourish our spirits and inspire our minds. And they have the ability to really transform our lives in so many ways and support our well-being. And with that, I think UPS man is here, and it's time for me to get to the studio because I think there are people knocking on the door. I can sense it, wanting to buy antiques. So I'm gonna head that way, and until next time, we'll see ya. Bye.
Hi Homeworthy, my name's Whitney Talsma and welcome to my home in Boston, Massachusetts. Hi, my name is Whitney Talsma and I am an interior designer in Metro West Boston. I take care of residential homes and design them for families, young professional couples, and I absolutely love my job. My family and I, which includes my husband, my son Theo, and my daughter Willow, we have lived in this house just under 2 years. It'll be 2 years in August. And this house is a really special home. It is called Stonewall Gardens, and it is actually on the National Register of Historic Homes by the Department of State, which is really exciting. It was established in 1814, so it's over 200 years old, which is amazing. But it has such a modern living feel. It's such a great flow to the house, tall ceilings, big windows, super charming. We love this home. This family, the original family that lived here, they were in the leather whip making business for stagecoaches. So they would make 20-foot long whips. There was agriculture on the land, so lots of like cranberry bogs in the area, apple fields. So a lot going on this property, which I think is why it makes it so special. And there's even a little shoe shop on the property as well. And you will hear a little story later about some old shoes that we found. So my style is kind of a little mix of different things. So definitely colorful, lots of pattern, whimsical and cheerful, and there's a little touch of femininity, but you will also find some areas too that have a masculine feel. I absolutely love florals. You will find florals everywhere in patterns and art, and just fresh flowers around the house. So that is definitely like the core of my design style. I would also say that I do also love like traditional, you could say like grand millennial as well, English cottage, refined rustic. And then definitely those like moodier masculine spaces as well. So I am a little bit all over the place, but it allows me to be creative and kind of explore some different design styles. All right, welcome to our formal entry. We don't actually use this entry very much because the front door does not have a sidewalk leading up to it. It really is just granite steps leading into the grass, but this is a federal farmhouse style, so really it's laid out in the federal architecture way. But I have definitely made the most of this entryway because it's got a beautiful stairwell. You can see the detail on the steps, and then I added my gallery wall, which you'll be able to see, and lots of my favorite art. So I don't know if you've heard of Mary McGuire. She's one of my favorites. She has kind of all of the teal blue backgrounds, and then I've kind of sprinkled in some of the others, artists that I love as well. Another really cool thing about the front entry is this beautiful door hardware. I believe it is original to the house, which is pretty special. It is a very heavy latch, and I have to really put it in my body weight to open it up, but no intruders will get in. And you can see this really pretty unlacquered brass detail as well. So also part of our formal entry is this little vignette that I've put together. And this piece here has come with me since, I think, senior year of high school through all the homes that I've lived in. I'm from Virginia as well as my husband, and this piece I found in Southern Virginia. And it is like an antique piece, and it really has worked well in all the homes, but especially this spot here. It just goes so well with the wallpaper that was put in by the previous owner, and the colors and everything, and just adds that kind of touch of antique feel. And then of course I have my little collected antique books, which you'll see everywhere in the house. But yeah, I just love this little vignette. I've got my pleated lampshade. You'll notice that I love a lot of pleated lampshade scallops. That's like another big feature that I put into my designs. And then my dried hydrangeas and my little straw dogs that I think are just a fun, playful, whimsical touch to our foyer. So this wallpaper here, not necessarily my go-to design style. It was installed by the previous owner, but I have definitely been able to work with it and add my own special touches, just like my gallery wall with all of those nature and botanical art and prints and frames. And I think it just adds, takes these big swaths of wall and makes it more interesting. So I think the previous owner did a really good job adding that. All right, so now we're going to go to our formal living room. So this is our formal living room, which actually isn't so formal. It's right off the playroom. So this is just a space that has this beautiful fireplace. As you can see, it's original to the home. And this is one of 8 fireplaces in the house, but this one we actually can use. It's deep enough. I feel good about it. And we had the fireplace inspected, and the guy who came to inspect it said he was super impressed with the construction, the design inside the fireplace. So I guess when they built it back then, they did a fantastic job. But I just love the beautiful detail that you can see here that really speaks to kind of the federal architecture. And so I love to kind of highlight that. And then you can also see this little cabinet here. We don't know what's behind it. I think it's been sealed shut by paint. We're dying to somehow get it open one day and see what's behind, but it remains a mystery, so who knows. But yeah, so this room definitely is a transition space one day. This is a room on my list that I would love to kind of do a makeover on. I'd love to make this like a cozy den with built-in bookcases, and we can, burn our fires in the winter and just cozy up in the space. But for now, it is a spot where all of our furniture from our old home came in here, and the kids love to jump on the furniture, so it's not too fragile in here, definitely not super formal, but it has really great light, high ceilings, and this wallpaper was installed by the previous owner as well. And then over here, I have kind of my little vignette bookshelf. There aren't a ton of bookshelves here, so I don't have a lot of places to put all my collectibles, but this is definitely a spot where I've hung my plates on the wall that I've collected. These pieces are like Brimfield finds as well. These shaker boxes, actually, I got locally in town, and the story is that a woman collected each of these boxes. They didn't come as a set, and she spent years collecting the right size boxes and the right colors to create this set. And when I saw it in the antique shop, I fell in love with it and knew I had to have it, but apparently they can go for a lot if well done, so I'm hoping this is a good collection item here, but I didn't have to pay too much for it. And yeah, so this is where I like to display my items. And this here is a clock from my parents, and they passed this down on to me. This was in one of their really old homes in Virginia, and I have since inherited it. And we turned the chimes off because we couldn't manage the chimes every hour, but it still sits pretty here. But yeah, I just love having that piece in here too. And just another old house thing too, you can see just how crooked the door casing is in relation with the ceiling. There's definitely all of those oddities that you will find around the house that it's just an old home thing. So lots of sloping floors. We've got some fireplaces with the little hooks that come out that used to hang kettles. So I just love all the quirks of the old home. But again, this one is just such a great space. It really is fit for modern living. It's got central AC, which is hard to find in an old home, and just such a great layout as well. Good flow through the house. When someone is looking to buy an old home, I think taking care of kind of all the foundational pieces first that need some love. Yes, it may be a little bit kind of unsexy, if you will, but taking care of like the roofing, literal foundation, windows, that kind of thing, any safety issues. I think those are like the biggest things to start priority with, and then we can kind of take a look at the other areas of the home that we want to update or modernize a little bit while still keeping that charm and whimsy, because the last thing you want to do is strip away the beautiful historical details in a home. The other side of our formal living room here is our sofas, and again, these are the sofas that the kids jump on, and they're from our old house, but one day I would love to do some sort of like built-in bookcase here with like our love seat sitting in the middle and some sconces. I have this grand plan. I just need to execute it one day when I can afford to. But I have also this table I was inherited from my grandmother as well. And you can notice there's more of the rounded kind of scallop floral edging, but it's a really cool table. I was going to refinish it, but I actually kind of like the dark wood. And this art here is another Switzerland find from my trip last weekend. And this one, I actually wasn't sure if I was gonna bring it back home on the plane or if it was going to make it. I tried to carry it on and they're like, nope, not allowed. So it was wrapped up really well in bubble. Thankfully, the antique shop did a great job with that. And so I sent it to go under the plane and prayed and hoped that it would make it, and it survived. So I just love it. It's a beautiful piece. Again, it's got florals in a vase, common theme in my house. It's oil painting, and then the frame is just beautiful in itself. So this is our little bar cart area. Luckily, the kids don't go near it or touch it, so we're lucky with that. But this is pretty much my husband's collection of alcohol, lots of spirits, some really good ones in there, and he's become really into making cocktails. So he will visit this often and craft something with all the ingredients here. But I think it's just such a great little spot right at the window as you're coming off of the kitchen. All right, now I'd love to show you our kitchen. Follow me. All right, so this is our kitchen. It is probably my second favorite part in the house or room in the house. And this kitchen, as well as our informal dining room, which you'll see next, is the original part of the home, so 1814. So you can see the ceilings are original to the house. They're rough hewn, adds all that character, charm, and warmth to the space. And this kitchen, when we purchased it, it was a brighter white. It was recently updated, so the countertops were here, a marble with like a touch of green in it. But I decided to take it another step further And so I added all the beadboard on the walls and on the island as well. I had the island painted, the walls painted a creamier white just to give it, again, a little bit more warmth to the space. Changed out the hardware, and we also added some shelving. We added the window treatments. So really bringing in also more color. I changed out this light fixture as well and did these pretty little pleated shades in a green color. But we use this room all the time. It truly is the heart of our house. My husband loves to cook and the kids love to sit at the island. We have breakfast here every morning, coffee, tea, that kind of thing. And even though it's tiny, it really packs a great punch. It's just so charming, and it still has really great movement in the space. And we love like prepping next to the sink. We've got my plates here. So these are Penny Morrison plates that really play off nicely with the Roman shades. And then this is just another vintage piece of art with strawberries on it that I love. Strawberries are just so sweet to me, literally. And I've got one of my plant windows here. So these are called baby tears. But yeah, so this is kind of the kitchen area. This copper hood here was already here, and we replaced the range, but the copper hood, again, it just adds a different material, it adds that warmth, and it's just such a pretty place to cook with our copper hanging plates that I've collected, the shelving, and then the window too just adds a little bit of natural light to this space. And for space saving, we've got our knives here on the side. This is our beehive oven that actually is not functioning right now, but one day we would love to get this up and running. And for now, we store our cookbooks in there. So it's a great little spot to store the cookbooks, which we use very often. They're constantly in circulation. But again, adding kind of the brick detail that was here. It was painted by the previous owners, but we just added the creamier white to it. And I added another vintage piece of art above there. Little storage closet. And then here is also something big that I added to this kitchen. This was not here when we first moved in. And I thought, wow, this is such like a waste of space. Like nothing's going on here. I was like, we need more trash can, recycling bin. So I had a carpenter build out this little countertop area, kind of like coffee bar area. And then we've got pull out trash can, pull out recycling. And then up here, more cookbook storage and our microwave and storing our mugs and everything for the coffee bar. But what a great use of space. It's so functional and also really pretty with the corbel details that we added. So I'm glad we did that. This is one of the old windows, and it pops up like this, and you hook it on the little hook, and you can see we can get some fresh air, but another kind of old feature of the house that I think is really nice to have. My favorite part of the kitchen is my plant window, which apparently to an old homeowner that I had visit a couple of weeks ago, this used to be one of the entries to the house, and probably 40 years, maybe 50 years ago, they closed it up and they put this beautiful window in here. So now this is where my plants live. And I have my topiaries, our fresh herbs, basil, rosemary. I just got this jasmine plant, so I'm excited for that to bloom. I love the smell of jasmine. But this window gets southern light, so it is really our main source of light in the kitchen, and it's great for my plants as well. But I just love this little spot because fresh flowers and plants in the house just make all the difference. So as we prepare to move into the dining room, I just wanted to touch on this piece here. So I got a couple of pieces of oil paintings and art passed down to me from generations from my family in Argentina. And this is one of them. And again, I think it brings out like the copper tones in the kitchen. It adds that warmth, and it's just obviously a special family heirloom. So I found this perfect spot for it. Now it lives in the kitchen here in Boston, Massachusetts. So right off the kitchen is our informal dining space, which is also our secondary entry space. So this room serves a lot of purposes and functions. And as you can see, we have the continuation of the original ceiling beams, again from the 1814 year. And this room has been a formal entry to some previous owners, but this just made the most sense for us to use as our dining area, which was right off the kitchen. But this wallpaper here was another wallpaper installed by a previous owner, and they had great taste, so I love it too. And the trim here is also a Fair One Ball color. And it's just so warm and just a happy space. And our dining table here is kind of set up. I have these Jalisca plates, and it's just like a charming, I changed out the light up here, and it has kind of antique feel, but not actually being antiques. And this here, actually, this painting is one of those other paintings from family member in Argentina, and they actually painted this one themselves. So this one's extra special. And I've got that one housed there. It's just beautiful with the gilt frame. This piece here is a mixed media art piece, and it is called Cherries, and you can see these nails here were collected around like warehouses all around America. And here we have some old reclaimed wood. Up here are like vintage cigar box pieces and bookbinder pieces. So it's a really cool mixed media piece. This one was a piece that used to live in my family's summer house in Maine. And they have since sold that lake house, but they were nice enough to let me have the piece because it worked perfectly on this wall. And then here, again, as I mentioned before, it is our main entry into the house, and we had to make this little nook area our kind of shoe collection. So all the shoes are stored in this handy little Amazon cabinet. So super inexpensive, but it really gets the job done. And then our mirror here, again, bob and detail. Love the bob and detail. But we have our little bench where the kids can put the shoes on. So this little corner of our dining area is truly functional, but still works within the big picture of the space. Here's my little tablescape I put together. I just got these plates actually for Mother's Day by Jalisca, and I just love, again, the floral detail. The colors go really well in here. Lots of pattern, and then of course more scallop. If you guys don't know before the end of this that I love scallops, that may be a problem because I have mentioned it so many times, but this is just such a pretty place setting. And then strawberries I love, and I just thought that was like a pretty pop of color. And then this vase here is another piece that I found at Brimfield Flea Market. It definitely kind of has like a large French pitcher feel to it, and so I think it works really well to hold flowers, or of course if you want to put water in it and use it for that purpose as well. All the natural details too, I think, really tone down like any formality that maybe the plates bring, but I think it all works really well together. And eating on these plates day to day, it kind of just makes it more special feeling. So my family, we host a little bit. When my family and my husband's parents come up from Virginia, there's quite a few of us. So I am in the process of looking for a larger dining table. And I do have some new beautiful dining chairs coming any day now. But we all gather in here, and it's just like such a cozy space at night with our light fixture glowing, and then of course the warmth of the ceiling. And it's just a different atmosphere than like maybe some other home in like a more modern setting. And right off of our dining room is one of our powder rooms. And so this space has actually got a little bit of an interesting story. I had this wallpaper for a little while and was looking for a spot to use it. Actually, I probably planned on using it in this powder room, but was just kind of waiting for the right moment. And lo and behold, let's see, I think it was last winter, one of the pipes froze in our house and directly affected this powder room. So we had to rip up all the flooring and seal that out, insulate it, that kind of thing. And this was kind of my moment to change up the powder room as I wanted. So I had this brick herringbone floor installed. And then finally got to put up my wallpaper that I had been planning on doing and was just waiting for the right moment. And sure enough, that was the time. But another kind of cool thing, when they had ripped up the flooring, remember how I had mentioned that there was a shoe shop on the property? we actually found old shoes under the flooring here. And it's just like probably 6 or 8 inch deep kind of dirt underground there, foundation under the flooring. And the shoes were just sitting there. So I don't know how old they were. They definitely looked old, potentially even from the early 1800s. But we actually just left them there. So it's kind of like a little time capsule. But I think that was a really cool find that we didn't expect to see. But this bathroom, you can see the wood paneling on the back with the mirror. That's original to the house and has gone unchanged through all the owners. And we didn't, but the previous owners also installed this pedestal sink because before it was really just like also very rough wood sink, as well as kind of toilet, like really old, almost colonial looking toilet system. We needed to update that a little bit. So thank you, Kohler, for the pedestal sink and the updated toilet. But we do have this lantern, which we inherited from the previous owner, so that's been here for a while, and just adds kind of that old world charm to the space. And then this piece, actually, I found in an estate sale right across the street from a house that sold, and it worked perfectly in here. So this is just a charming little happy bathroom, again, full of garden and flowers, my favorite. So I love showing this space off. So on the door too, we have this hardware that was on here. So really pretty little rosette kind of detail. I don't know how old it is, but I suspect it's pretty old. But it is just like a charming little detail to the door that we wanted to keep. And right off the dining room is our family room. It is the room we use probably second to most besides the kitchen. And when we were looking at this property, this room was unpainted. It was very dark. The previous owners weren't really using it, but I definitely saw the potential in this space. It is surrounded by all of our gardens. It's south-facing sunlight, so it really has like one of the best views in the house. And of course, we have vaulted ceilings in here as well. And the beams that you see are actually from a Vermont barn that was brought down to this area to go into this sunroom back in the 1980s. And I definitely did not want to paint those beams, but all of the white that you see was like a darker red, like cedar, and I was like, that needs to lighten up a little bit. So somewhat controversial to some people, I decided to paint it White Dove by Benjamin Moore, and wow, what a difference. It has lightened and brightened and made this room feel so light and airy, which was just transformational in itself. But I also got a large sectional for our family, so we sit here, we watch movies together, watch TV together, or just take a nap or rest. It's just a really cozy, like cat nap spot as well with that sun coming in. And we have a couple of different collected pieces as well. So over here, another Brimfield find, this French basket, but kind of the main showstopper of the room, in my opinion, is this blanket hutch here, painted. This was another piece that my mom had collected and used in her previous homes and gifted it to me, and so it now kind of acts as the focal point in the room, and our frame TV sits above it, and I've got my collected books and my plants all in this space. And then here is an ottoman. I was looking for the right size ottoman, something upholstered. I really couldn't find anything that fit in the space so well. So I actually found a inexpensive Wayfair piece. I just loved the turned legs on it, but the fabric wasn't right. So I took it upon myself to do my own reupholstery on it. And so far it's worked out and looks good, but eventually I'd love to do that professionally, get that fixed. But funny story about these. I actually collected these last night on the side of the road in front of our house. But don't they look nice here? I don't know. I like them. The purple's so pretty. And let's see what else. So I also have a big swath of wall here. I put a big tapestry and some candle sconces. I would love to put like a huge hutch piece there one day, but we do have our split AC unit, so that's gonna have to wait until I can get that moved. But overall, like winter and summer, everyone always asks, like, do you get hot in this space? Do you get cold in this space with the seasons change? We have a really good temperature control system in here, so we really use this room year round, and it works well. And like I said, you've got beautiful views to the garden. And it's just our main hangout spot, so we're really happy with it. And I have my giant olive tree too, which seems to be pretty happy in this space. It has been here almost 2 years or so. But yeah, it's another great focal point to the room, especially since we have high ceilings. It just keeps growing, 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 and we'll continue to watch it grow. Welcome to the primary bedroom. This is probably my favorite room in the house. I designed it right before we moved in. And let's start with the wallpaper. So the wallpaper is something that I saw on social media probably like 3 years ago. Absolutely fell in love with it. And I knew I needed to use it somewhere, but of course we didn't have this house yet. So I just kind of kept it in the back of my mind. And finally, when we purchased this house, I knew exactly where I wanted to use it, and it is in this space. So I wake up to it every day. Again, it's got the botanical floral print that I absolutely love, and it's just so happy and cheerful to wake up to in the mornings, with the kind of marigold and the blue-green trim color that my husband and I took on and painted. But yeah, this space is just a really cozy room. We've got a fireplace here that is non-functioning. It's very shallow, so I do not trust it, but it is a really great feature in the room. And then we also didn't really know how to orient the bed in this space, especially with the fireplace, but we figured with a really thin profile canopy bed, it would fit really nicely in front of the windows, and sure enough, it worked out really nicely with the fireplace as well. And you will also see here we have my little vintage scallop plates. Again, another scallop edge detail that you'll see. You'll see the scallop edge on my bedding, lampshades. I love scallops. And I also have my dresser, our frame TV, which is great because if you're not familiar with frame TVs, it is just like art hanging on the wall when you're not using it. We do have a secondary entry to the bedroom, which we have pretty much closed off, and now we use it as a little seating area. So this is our little reading nook. I found this chair on Facebook Marketplace, so I love mixing high and low pieces, vintage pieces, antique pieces. So again, you're gonna see that common theme in this house, but it is really just like a cozy little area to hang out. And some other features too. We've got my little basket of flowers, another Facebook Marketplace find. This art, we drove out to Worcester and it was in some guy's attic, and I thought with the background of the colors and then that pop of purple, it was a really beautiful space, or really beautiful art piece to add to this room. And that is our primary bedroom. I am definitely kind of the lead designer in the family for obvious reasons, but I am so lucky because my husband just is so go with the flow, and luckily we do actually have similar design style tastes, so it makes it super, super easy. And so far my kids are young enough where they haven't given their say quite yet, but I would say for the most part they love their rooms as well, and we'll just continue to build on them as they get older. But yeah, so far my husband has just been go with the flow. He's got his office space, which is his room, and he gets to do it with what he wants with it. But otherwise, he likes what I do. All right, so now we are going to head to my daughter Willow's room. Come with me. So before we actually go to my daughter's room, I wanted to touch on this space a little bit. This is like my little art gallery, which I touched on a little bit downstairs, but you can see I am growing my gallery wall, and I continue to add pieces over time. Of course, we've only lived here 2 years, so I will continue to add and add rather than, I hate bulk buying at like a big box retail store. It's not quite my style, but Anyways, I've got pieces here. So a piece that I absolutely love, it was my first big art purchase by Luli Wallace. And again, it's got that cheerful, playful color and feel. So that is the big piece that you see coming up the stairs. And then I also have a Vanessa Cooper piece, which my mom actually gave to me as a gift. And she is a artist from the UK. And again, her art style is very like whimsical. There's always like a little storyline behind the art as well. And then up here, I just purchased these actually last weekend. I got back from Switzerland from visiting my brother and sister-in-law and their son, who's newborn. And I found these little bird porcelain bookends from an antique shop in Switzerland. So I love collecting things. I just thought they were so pretty and fit on these perfectly. And I will continue to display them. They just make me happy when I walk through the space. And then here, again, I'm continuing to build as time goes on, but I just wanted to point out Amy Elizabeth Krebs' art here. She is an awesome artist, definitely check her out, but you can see she focuses on kind of botanicals, and then another thing that I love are bobbin details. So the bobbin frames stole my heart when she showed me those. So I've got that little gallery wall going. All right, so now we'll enter my daughter Willow's room. All right, welcome to Willow's room. She is one lucky little girl. I just finished this space almost. We're still waiting on a green spindle bed with a beautiful Pharaoh and ball green color to it. Didn't make it in here, but that's okay. But this style of the room is definitely a special, it's got kind of that British whimsy that I love so much. And the wallpaper is actually by Liberty, so it definitely fits the theme. And we had the trim painted, the doors painted in a Pharaoh and ball color. Super happy, and she loves the pink. And then one of her favorite colors is blue as well, so I had to incorporate Skylight by Pharaoh and ball on the ceiling, which is a really pale blue color and picks up on the blues in the wallpaper. But yeah, this bedroom has I love the like little ruffle tops here, and then the stripe, cabana stripe curtains, again, very British. And then lots of like natural accents. We've got this wicker scallop, of course, edging on the mirror. We've got lots of pattern play with the stripes, and then of course the botanical, like little floral berry wallpaper. This is another Vanessa Cooper art piece, again, super cute. And then we have more scallops on the rug. Can't get enough scallops. And then we have this quilt here I just picked up at Brimfield Flea Market in Massachusetts. I don't know if you guys have heard of it, but it's a big flea market that happens 3 times a year in Massachusetts. I try to go at least in the spring and the fall and do my collecting. But I'm excited to add this to the end of her bed once it gets here. And yeah, we've got just such a fun little play space. We used to have her little nursery chair here, but now because she is 3 years old, she now gets her little own play space with her chairs and her dollhouse, and it is her spot for a little bit of quiet time. But I'm really happy with the way that this room turned out, and we'll just continue to build upon it once her bed gets here too. Right now, I haven't been able to design too many children's rooms, but I think they are just so fun. It's where you can really play with pattern and color and really just have fun with it. And so being able to do my daughter's room, because she is just so silly and sassy and sweet, like a Sour Patch Kid, that this room definitely speaks to her personality. And then my son's room too, you'll see in a minute. It's just a little bit more handsome, antiques, that kind of thing. So really kind of going with their different personalities and styles, but it is a lot of fun. I wish I could do more. So Willow is a lucky girl. She gets her own fireplace in her room. It is non-functioning. Again, it's super shallow. I would not trust a fire in a children's room with such a shallow fireplace, but it is a great focal point in the space. And kind of a cool thing, again, this is an old house thing. It's got this little cubby space on the side, so we store, all of her memory box stuff in there, extra clothes. And then up here, we didn't hardwire these lights actually. These are by Pookie US. They actually just came from the US from the UK. They're based there. And these are rechargeable lamps. And so you can either tap the tops or there's a remote to turn them on. So it's just another great light source in here. And then Willow's favorite art, which is a little bit kind of a juxtaposition to the rest of the room, is this gray Malin art, and it has a bunch of different dog breeds around the pool. She loves swimming. She loves coming up and looking at this art and being like, I am like this one, Mommy, you're like this one. But it really pulls, you can see the colors in the space, so it works even though it's a little bit of like a more modern photography. And this here is actually a vintage tea set from my grandmother. So it is stored carefully up here because it is very fragile, but it is a great little piece that adds just to her mantle, and we'll continue to add on as time goes on. Now that we've talked about my daughter Willow's room, we're going to go to my son Theo's room now. Come on. So you are now in my son Theo's room. Theo does get the smaller bedroom, but he doesn't seem to care at all. And this room is really special because it actually has my brother's childhood antique bed. And thankfully my dad saved it for years and years and years. And when it was time, I remembered it and I was like, I would love that bed. Can I have it? And so he brought it up here to Massachusetts from Virginia. And we put it in Theo's room, and it works just perfectly. It is a traditional rope bed, so we had to add a little bit of support under there, especially when he loves to jump on the bed. It's probably not the safest, but we're good now. And we just added these little plug-in flush sconce lights. We've got our little Explore flag, and then over here on the wall are some antique game boards, something that my mom, who is also a huge collector, has passed down to me. And so those I think are just like a fun little addition for wall art that go really well with the antique bed. And then this little guy here is another Brimfield find, and it's a recycled newspaper, I guess, that's been twisted up into a dog shape. And the kids have named him Pookie for whatever reason. But he's a fun little addition to his bedroom. And we also have an antique plane hanging from the ceiling. And one other thing that you will learn about me is that I love tramp art. So in the gallery wall in the stairwell, you'll see a lot of tramp art frames. And this is another example of a tramp art frame. And that's another antique piece passed down to me. But yeah, this is a typical boys' room. We've got all of our books and Legos are put away, but you did see Eevee Pokemon. He's a big Pokemon fan, so he still gets his pieces in this space. But it's a cozy little room, and but it packs a punch, so I'm super happy with it, and I think he is too. Okay, so now that we have done the inside of the house, I am going to take you outside and show you our gardens and the stone walls, which is why we named it Stone Wall Gardens. So follow me. So welcome to our outdoor area. Whenever the weather is nice in New England, we love to be outdoors all the time. So we have here this little patio area. This is our fire pit. So we will come out here with the kids and do s'mores. And then after the kids go down, the adults get together and we do cocktails by the fire. So it's a really great little place. We have our string light, so it's cozy in the evening. And then over here, we have our alfresco dining area. And this is another favorite spot of mine. I love eating outside. The kids love eating outside. They're always asking, let's eat outside. And so we have our wicker chairs and then our teak table. And I just love the green and white striped umbrella. Simple Target find. Everyone's like, where did you get that? Honestly, it was so inexpensive, but it's so cute in this space. And you can see like all of our patio area has this stone wall here, so part of the Stone Wall Gardens. And I just learned actually from a previous homeowner that had lived here for 30 years that the owner before them had a somewhat famous Italian masonry build this whole wall back in like the 50s, I think. And they were super proud of having him build their wall because apparently he is pretty talented. But it has done really well over the years, and I just love how the moss grows on it and just adds another element to our garden space. And then over here we have all our flower beds that we continue to add on. My last home did not have a lot of sunshine in the flower bed, so I am in heaven here. I get to plant all the sun-loving plants here. So in the spring, you guys just missed, all the irises were blooming, all the peonies were blooming. It was absolutely gorgeous, but now we're into the summer flowers. So it's gonna be just as good as we continue to grow. We've got our lavender. And then this is another secondary seating area. Just another place where we can gather with cheese and wine, hang out with the kids, and then our sun chases as well, if we want to do a little sunbathing. So this is kind of our immediate patio outdoor area.
Thanks for watching. Be sure to go to homeworthy.com for exclusive content, shopping guides, and so much more.